Hello everybody, welcome to Savage Ink Studios. I'm your host Ink. Before we get into our story time today, shout out to iMet87 who had requested a background on one of my pieces, so it's not very good, but here you go. It is a background. I've completed my portion of this request. And also before the story, I just want to give you guys a really quick rundown, family tree sort of, so you guys don't get confused. My dad has 7 kids plus me, and my mom has 3 kids plus me. So this story is about one of my mom's kids. My mom has Ivy, my little sister, that you guys have all heard of by now, I'm sure. Crowe, who is 16 now, and Enigma, who is 22. This story is about Crowe when he was 8, being diagnosed with diabetes. So, I remember he had gotten the stomach flu, or a bug or something, so he'd been sick and throwing up. But, Ivy and I had started to get a little bit worried when the puking didn't stop. It'd been like 2 weeks, and this kid was still puking his brains out all the time. He was exhausted, and I mean, I just kind of figured that it was a long-lasting bug, whereas Ivy was a little more concerned. She tends to be more intuitive to this sort of thing than I do, and I remember like a week and a half in, I was like, alright kid, put your shoes on, we're just going to walk around the corner, we'll go to the corner store and we'll pick you up a granola bar or something. And he's like, no, I really, really don't want to. I really, really don't feel good. And I'm like, dude, you need some fresh air. You stay cooped up in this house, it's just going to make you worse. And that was when I started getting really concerned, because we had made it not even a block and he was out of breath and his face was pale. So I started getting concerned. And we brought it to our mom's attention, and she's like, oh, he's fine. So, continuing on, he's still sick, he's getting more and more exhausted, all he's doing is sleeping. And then Ivy pulled me over and said, look at his stomach. And she pulled up his shirt, and his ribs were showing. I mean, he was just skin and bone. And he had been eating, but only puking sometimes, but I mean, you could just see this kid was not doing hot. And we went back to our mom, and we're like, Mom, he needs to go to a hospital. He looks like a skeleton. This is not okay. And neither one of us, Ivy or myself, were his legal guardians, we couldn't really take him. And our mom was just like, no, he's fine, no, he's fine, no, he's fine. So, come to find later, our mom decided that she needed to go to the emergency room because she got scabies and that was important. So, Ivy and I told her, if you're going to the emergency room, you need to take him because he's not well and all inconvenienced and whatnot. She's like, fine, 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 fine. And so she took him, and at first the doctors did not know what was wrong with him. They just knew that something was wrong. And it was actually another patient who had seen him in passing and was like, you need to check that kid's blood sugar. He's diabetic. And sure enough, they did. And the doctors were floored. I mean, his blood sugar was, don't quote me here, I could be wrong. I want to say it was in like the 400s. And he was in bad, bad shape. And they hooked him up to IVs and stuff. And not long after he got into the hospital, he conked out. He was done. And, I had told my boss, my brother's in the hospital. The doctors don't know if he's going to be okay. And I will let you know when he's better. But until then, I'm not leaving his side. And I didn't. He was in the hospital for 5 days, and I did not leave his side. I'm a smoker, by the way. I don't know if that's apparent in my voice or if that's just assumed by my personality or how most people tell if you're a smoker or not, but I'm informing you, I smoke cigarettes. And I did not leave that hospital to smoke a cigarette in the 5 days that he was stuck on that bed. And the doctors really didn't know if he was going to be okay or not because his blood sugar just would not even out for some reason. And with him all hooked up, they told us, we couldn't give him any water or anything, and a couple of times he would stir and, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty, and we had to tell him, like, look, I'm sorry, kid. They said that if we give you water, one of your organs is gonna, like, swell up and explode. I cannot give it to you. We were allowed to wet his tongue with, a damp paper towel, and that was it. And I was so scared for him. I could not imagine a world that he didn't exist in. He was my baby brother. He was the last melon, the last kid our mom was ever going to have. And he definitely is like the baby in the family. He's little spoiled sometimes by me and by Ivy, and we just, because we knew, when our mom had him, we knew that he was the last we were going to get. She got cut and burned and tied and everything that you could do to ensure that somebody can't have babies again. That was done. So we knew that he was the last one our mom was going to have, which made him a little extra precious in a way, I guess. So seeing him there really was a terrifying experience, not knowing if he was going to be okay. Eventually, though, he did pull through, and, diabetes was a huge life change for all of us. I mean, before this happened, I was absolutely terrified of needles to the point where if I saw one, I wanted to cry. In my lifetime, I've been known to kick a couple doctors who are trying to give me a flu shot. But as soon as it came down to, he needs this or he's not going to be okay, that fear just vanished, because you can't let fear get in the way of taking care of someone you love. So you bet I was grabbing those needles and measuring everything out just right and sticking them in the belly with it, as sick as it made me feel, because he was my little guy, and I couldn't do anything other than just take care of him and love him completely. However, my job, I had informed my manager when he went into the hospital that I was not leaving his side until I knew that he was going to be okay, and she said that's fine, just keep us posted. I don't recall sleeping during the time that I was there at the hospital. I'm sure I passed out next to his bed a couple of times, but I was texting every day that I was aware was a day, because every second feels like a year when someone you love might not make it. And at the end of it, when the doctor said he's going to be okay, a couple of days we'll send him home, but he's definitely going to be all right. I called my manager back and been like, okay, he's going to be all right. Schedule changes might need to happen to make sure that he's got his medication, that there's someone there to make sure he's okay, but, when can I get back on the schedule? And my manager's response was, if you want to keep your job, you need to get a hold of district, because you took too long to keep us informed of what was going on. And as I said, I texted her several times while I was in the hospital with him, and it was only 5 days. So at least 3 of those days she got a message staying updated, but that wasn't enough. So I called district, and district's like, oh, that's between you and your manager. And so I called the manager, and the manager's like, well, it's up to district. And I'm like, you know what, I don't have time for this. I got a sick kid at home, and I don't have the time to deal with this crap. I've got stuff to do. So I found another job, and that was that. And you know what, at that point, it probably was the best thing to do, because being home and learning that process was the best thing that I could do for him at that point. And now he's 16 and knows how to stick himself all by himself. And thank God he's good at math, because working out insulin per carbs, especially when it changes every time that he fluctuates in weight, not a fun thing. Not a fun thing. So, that is the story of Crowe and how he was diagnosed with diabetes. I hope you guys enjoyed my story. I hope you guys enjoyed my sketch. Oops, we're not done yet. I thought we were done. I think we're just finishing up on the shading here. I'm not super proud of this piece. I really, really liked the line art, but once the color was finished and the background was finished, I was just kind of disappointed in it. So, hope you enjoyed the story. Hope you enjoyed my sketch. See you guys in the next one.